everyone, I'm Tatiana. Welcome to gorgeous Southern California. I'm so privileged to live here. And I thank you for joining me again. We are on our second video. And so, as we spoke about in the first video, we talked about disconnect and we talked about this mission of mine to serve women in business, to own their power in a different way. Women's path to power is nothing like a man's. It really isn't. And this is what we need to decondition ourselves from believing that we are in this world of business populated by men, yes. And in fact, the world of business is a masculine, energetic world. So it's not just the fact that it's populated by men, but it's energetically masculine. And we'll go into more details and more depth into the masculine and the feminine in the third video. So as I experienced that disconnect I was referring to in the first video, which was really the moment of ignition towards this change of life, this transformation and creation of this business and coaching women, this disconnect for me at the time, which is also related to a lot of different people, disconnect means also a lack of alignment. You're not living on the outside the way that you really feel on the inside. And so I can honestly say that up until 4 years ago, I had lived a really nice life. I'll go into more details about perhaps the initial stages of the story, but in fact, I had lived a really nice life. I had had this business prior to this one in Montreal, and it was a real estate business or a niche of real estate that I took from a little seed and grew it to a multi-million-dollar franchise in Canada with my partners. And this business was a passion of mine. Oh my God, I was so happy to have found what made me get up in the morning and literally was looking forward, not even looking forward. I just couldn't wait to get to the office. I couldn't wait to start my day. And when I started this business, I knew absolutely nothing about the business. I thought, you know what, I just love this idea and I think it's going to be freaking amazing, and I am just going to take baby steps every day. I'm just going to do the very best I can. I'm going to work very hard. I'm going to learn every day, and I will juggle my role of a mother and a wife and a business owner and do it all at once while I am on this path of being this incredible entrepreneur. I just discovered how much I love business, and I discovered a lot about myself through the business, through building this business. I was extremely resourceful. I was always saying yes to everything and everyone because I just wanted to, say yes and figure it out later, which is still one of my mottos, actually. And I was strategic, and I was on point, and I was controlling of my numbers, and I was planning the business growth, and I was very linear into this thinking of where I wanted this business to go. And I was in my yummy phase of learning the skills of an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur. I didn't lose money. I mean, it was great. I was just having so much fun until it all came crashing down one day because my husband at the time asked me for a divorce, and it had a lot to do with the passion I had for this business. And at the time, I didn't have the skills I have today. I didn't have the tools I have today. And it is what it is. But at the time, it really pissed me off. I was very upset that because of a business, I could be potentially losing, not potentially actually, I was losing my marriage. It had been 23 years. We had two gorgeous girls. And yes, we were going through a rough phase. And I thought that it would just be a rough phase, that we just would get out of it and we would figure it out, because I've always been, looking at the glass half full. I've always been the one that looks at the possibilities and the solutions, and I faced this decision at that point that he made, and I was really pissed off. And it turned into, actually, I turned that energy, again, very unconsciously at the time, I turned that energy into a lot of defiance against men. And I turned that energy into a lot of anger. I was angry to face this consequence of me being so passionate about my business. Today, I see it, I get it in a different way, and we talk about that in the third video when we talk more about feminine and masculine energy and essence and all of that. But basically, I became so defiant and so wanting to prove to the world and to men that I could do this on my own, that I was independent, that I was successful, that I was resourceful, that I was strategic, that I was completely able and capable and skillful to build this little empire of mine to its best. And I did not realize that I was actually trying to prove all of this to myself. And so when I got to this point 4 years ago, after 15 years in this business, after building that empire to a really great level, after living in a way that was quite disconnected from what I really wanted deep down in my heart, and I was sent a man I was dating at the time. I literally thank him for my transformation and this point of awareness in my life where I realized how much of a disconnect I was living. So this man was actually a Tony Robbins coach, and so we went to an event, and Date with Destiny was the event, and I jumped into the Tony worlds. And I have not left the Tony world. It is one of my most dear adopted family. I contribute today by actually being a coach in the events with Tony and the leadership team that he has, the amazing leadership team he has around him. And so at that event, I decided to go deeper. And I sold everything. I came back to Montreal, and it took me a year to sell my business. But I sold the business, I sold my house, I spoke with my kids. They were, grown up at the time. And I decided to really live my truth and to embody my light and to really own my power and not feel like I ever have to prove to anyone what I'm worth and who I am. So I made that Tony Robbins journey, because after that I actually jumped into the Tony Robbins Platinum membership team, which is an amazing network of individuals who want to elevate their lives and immerse themselves for an entire year. And I created this niche with Tony, actually, through one-on-one conversations that we had, and I was sharing with him my passion for women who are living under masculine masks. And I knew that he knew way more about it than I did at the time, obviously, to the point where we even have a day in Date with Destiny completely dedicated to relationships and how the feminine and the masculine can actually really be depolarized, or it can really be lived by the other gender. Basically, that means that I was living that life of disconnect was because, in fact, I was living under masculine masks. I was not living in my core feminine. It had become a way of life out of this defiance and anger and wanting to prove myself and in fact, feeling less than, and always being on the lookout to prove myself and protect myself because, don't know what could happen. it had become such a way of life that what we call in our world, it was living under masculine masks. And men do that too. Men can actually disconnect from their masculine core essence and take on feminine masks to cope with different circumstances. And we'll go into that later. But that point where I saw Tony Robbins do interventions on women who are very masculine because they've been in business for such a long time, and him getting through to them in a way that would call their core essence coming back. It still gives me goosebumps today because it's actually the most beautiful thing, and I had no idea this was happening. And in fact, I'm not alone. There are hundreds of women in that way, living in the business world, in this world today. They're living disconnected from what is really their light and their truth and their authenticity. And they're unfortunately not using the masculine traits as tools. They're really living in that masculine energy. So it doesn't mean that they look masculine. I look feminine. I still look like that. I look more feminine today, definitely. But at the time, you know, the look was definitely, you know, somewhat feminine. But the inside and the energy and the what I was putting out to the world was very masculine. So it is so vital that we decide to truly live authentically, and that means for women to choose to come back to the core essence that we have, because when that happens, you use the masculine traits, you use those attributes that are terribly useful in the business world. You use them as tools. You do not use them as a way to live your life every day, because it's exhausting. This is why we feel so overwhelmed, so stuck, so tired, so worn out, so filled with responsibilities. And you know, we want to say we're so independent as women. We don't ask for help, but that doesn't serve us. That does not allow a man to actually be a man and come into our life and serve us and help us and be our partner. It affects everything. It affects your parenting. It affects your intimacy with a man. It affects your leadership at work, because when you're not authentic, you're not effective. You're not influential. You are not magnetic. I will do a series interviewing women who have made that switch. And my mission is to make all of you understand that when you make that switch, you then become an absolutely unbelievable magnetic leader. And magnetic means you can have the influence you want because you operate from a standpoint of power and truth and light. And that is so amazingly contagious. It's amazing. It's amazing how people come to you. It's amazing how people want to help you and assist you. You manifest things in your life that you never imagined. I've recreated my life completely, and I know that a lot of it is, yes, my desire for more, and it's my decision to choose myself as the one who matters in my life. I'm the CEO of my life. I create my life. And you can too. I am not so special. I'm just here wanting today and for the next years to come to follow my purpose, because this is my purpose, this is my mission. Everything in my life has contributed to being here in front of you, speaking to this really incredibly powerful content on feminine intelligence. So feminine intelligence is how do you operate from your core essence and know how to leverage that with grace in the business world in a very unapologetic fashion. Because when you own your power, when you own your truth and your light, you no longer apologize. You just know where to be and who to be. So I thank you for being part of this with me. I honor you for being open to knowing that there is more out there. I honor you for your openness to create more possibility in your life, because there is more possibility when you operate from a more authentic essence system. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you on the third video, where we go deeper into what exactly is feminine essence, what is masculine essence, and how do you combine the two that actually really makes feminine intelligence, which is the beauty of our amazing leadership women. I love you, thank you, and I'll see you soon.